The RPA Today Show, hosted by Howze and Wilton Rogers. The show that brings you the latest insights on RPA, robotic process automation, and how it's impacting every industry, as well as interviews with companies that are currently winning big with this technology. You'll also hear from other industry leaders and experts who will be sharing some of their success secrets to help you become more productive and to grow your business. This show is brought to you by Simply Automate, where we help you get more done in less time and more ease for your mind with strategic business automation. Learn more at www.simplyautomateinc.com, and please follow us on LinkedIn. If anything in this show resonates with you, please let us know by leaving a review. The RPA Today Show, where you just might learn something you didn't know. Ladies and gentlemen around the world, thank you again for listening. And those who are watching, the RPA Show, the show where if you listen long enough, you just might learn something you didn't know. I'm your host, Howze, my co-host, Wilton Rogers, the automation guy. If you don't understand what the automation guy is and what it means, put the hashtag in the LinkedIn, and you'll start to see what this guy is up to in regards to automation. What's up, Wilton?
What's going on, man? What you up to?
I'm always excited, man, to be on this show with you and with our guests, because we always learn. RPA, it's the show where you just might learn something you didn't know. And I often learn something I didn't know.
Oh, you're going to learn something today.
Yeah. we got a great guest today. Matter of fact, before we introduce, let me read his bio. This bio from LinkedIn. This is David here. All right. David McKenzie is with us, ladies and gentlemen. So David is an active real estate investor in Madison, Wisconsin area, and Marine Corps infantry officer. All right. When not investing in real estate, David is an investor and director of sales for Simply Automate, streamlining processes and finding inefficiencies for businesses. David avidly enjoys giving back to his community and has partnered with Bunker Labs, representing Madison, Wisconsin, one of their city ambassadors, helping veteran entrepreneurs pursue their passions in business. David, welcome to the RPA Show, my man.
Rob, Wilton, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And just so everyone knows, so we've had the pleasure of just running into David via LinkedIn and some wonderful people on LinkedIn. And we've just been able to collaborate in ways, but I've grown to respect this gentleman tremendously. Just as of late, just listen to how he communicates very effectively, his listening skills. Hey, and also he cares about people. That's a plus, Well, that's a plus.
Making me blush over here. I appreciate it.
I think that it was just, I won't say luck, it was just a blessing. The stars were aligned when we sort of met up, right? Mm-hmm. And he was introduced from a friend, one of his friends, one of his colleagues, college, right? And
old college buddy.
Yeah, so he told him a little bit about what we were doing. We started talking, and he just happened to have some RPA background. I didn't know, how much it was to start getting involved. But the great thing about what he's done lately is, there's a gap between RPA and knowing RPA and development. And most people that know RPA and the ones that do development, they don't understand what happens in the back end. And the ones in the front end can't really comprehend what happens in the front end. It's easy I've seen David in action on the daily basis, pretty much talk to our clients to make them understand the process, to ease their mind, because there's maybe some skepticism, there may be some doubt, and then he just sort of gives them a visual picture on what we're going to do. Yeah. At the end of every call, it feels like they feel way more comfortable. So it's been a big asset to our company for sure, no question. And we're building our process and our departments around the way he's sort of mapping it out for us. So he's a huge part of what we're doing.
Yeah. David, welcome back to the show. And honestly, communication is big. Communication is the key to everything. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you're trying to go or where you are now. You're never going to get there without good communication. And so what you're doing is you're helping people understand a language, RPA, robotic process automation, a foreign language. You're helping them to understand it in a very rapid, quick, concise amount of time to where not only they can gain enough understanding, but they can also take some action. First of all, tell us how you stumbled upon getting so knowledgeable about RPA, and then, tell us how you're doing that. How are you able to help people understand things so quickly?
Yeah, sure. So if we rewind about 7 years, started working for a Fortune 300 company, American Family Insurance. Got hired just as like a business analyst to do financial reporting, making sure they were compliant with certain, audit forms. My manager, fortunately, was very, good at coding. His language he was really good at was VBA, which is the native language behind Excel. And I would kind of just work with him on certain projects, smaller, just to help, easy macros. And I kind of just strike the interest. Ended up joining the Marine Corps 9 months later. So it took a little hiatus away from American Family, did that training for pretty much all of 2017, came back to American Family 2018. And we basically just had a discussion of trying to automate processes in the finance division. And that's what we did. Did most of them in VBA and then started a little bit of C#. By no means would I consider myself a good programmer for those languages, but I was enough to be dangerous. And just through college connections, having lunches with buddies, heard about Simply Automate and that they were looking to scale a little bit, got in touch with Wilton, and I think it was just a good mesh from the beginning. There wasn't really a ton of processes established, and fast forward a few months later, we're still working on a lot of those. So you mentioned communication. I think I have a really good gift of trying to bridge the gap for the human that isn't very technologically advanced, trying to show them what right will look like, and just really trying to talk to them as plain English or as plain as we can to, hey, this is the inputs that we as developers need, and this is what we're going to turn it into for a finished automation. I think so. Yeah, it's been a fun ride and learning a ton along the way.
Man, you shared it in a way to where even a caveman baby can understand it. So it's good.
That's important. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of attention lately for RPA. There's a lot of attention. And there's so many people that don't know about it, but so many people that think they know about it. But once they really sit down and talk to us, like, oh, okay, there's so many moving parts. And he does just a good job of doing the whole around. Like, okay, you know what? You're here. I'll take you from here, and I'll take you to here and show you what we can do. And so he can relate to anybody with wherever they are in the RPA journey, and sort of shorten that gap, that learning curve for them. And it's allowed us to be able to move a lot faster and to clean up areas of our company that we need to clean up. So, that comes with experience, first of all, but also comes with, like you said, he loves to help people, and if you really meet him in person, like literally meet him in person, you will know that, he just has that aura about him. So yeah, man, it's, we're growing, and we're growing because we have David on our team.
Yep. No, yeah, 100%. And talking about speaking on helping people, David, what would you say is number one, the biggest problem you think you've been able to help someone solve with RPA? Let's talk about let's go big now. The biggest problem you think you've been able to help someone solve by introducing them to understand RPA?
Sure. I would definitely say just, the realization that you can reallocate time. So with RPA and a lot of these ROI analysis or cost, benefit analysis, most RPA implementations are not going to be like a hard cost savings, right? We'll give you a dollar value of this is the time if you totally attrited that worker and did not hire them or fire them. Let's face it, companies just don't do that, right? Most companies respect their people and they keep them on. So what we've been able to do is give those hours back to the company to reallocate that person's time with more thoughtful task, really kind of opening up that thought window again for that worker, right? Because let's face it, the tasks that we're doing, most people don't enjoy doing. right? It's probably the task when they come to work, they dread waking up in the morning, going to that job because, it's that time of the month again, or, weekly, I have to do this report. Those are usually great candidates for RPA. Let the bot do it, right? The person that was doing it might have the next best idea for that company. Specifically to at least the real estate, right? I love investing in it personally, so that's what I know best. That and the grocery business, two very different aspects. But from that perspective, another good college buddy of mine let us kind of be a use case for Simply Automate, and we've been able to take their property management renewal process, which over a span of 6 days, that's how long it took them to complete it between 3 leasing agents every month, right? Now, granted, they weren't working every single day for 8 hours a day doing it, but they'd allocate 3 hours here, 2 hours there, and then they always had to get them out by a certain date. Well, the beautiful thing about automation now is we can go into their systems, right? Pull the same reports they would have done. They tell us what rules we need to complete. So with the renewal process, right? Lease A is currently being charged $100 a month. Market rent is $200. Figure out the difference, apply a percentage, and come up with the new rental amount based off the rules the client, in this case my buddy, told us to do. Now the bot calculates all of those. So for him, I think they have about 50 to 70 renewals every month. The bot pre-fills in the tenant renewal application, figures out the tenant's email, puts it in the DocuSign, signs it, fills it out, sends it out to his tenants, gives his leasing agents now an Excel tracker of, hey, this was completed for this amount. This one, I still need a little bit of human work. So they go in, they fix it, tell the bot to run it again, and it sends it out. So we literally took a process that took a span of 6 days, let's say maybe 30 hours, and it's done in 25 minutes, right?
Days, hours, 25 minutes.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the calculated ROI, and again, these are soft costs because nobody got fired, nobody lost their job. They're doing other tasks, finding another deal, working, better investor relations with their investors. And I think it's like 12,000 times ROI. So it's crazy.
That's crazy.
Just think of that. I mean, 3 employees at 30 hours a week, that's 10 hours a week. That's 2 extra hours a day. They're able to do something else, completely something else. And another one, you'll tell one better, David. He told me a story about when he was talking to one of the clients, and during the conversation, someone renewed, right? Yeah. I'll let you tell that story.
Yeah. So one of the rules, especially in the real estate market. So let's, rewind 2 years, pandemic. A lot of government regulations didn't allow these property managers to take rent increases. You couldn't evict, right? There was a lot of good government assistance, which helped some, burden on the tenant as well as the burden on the landlord. So theoretically, this year, you're potentially going to get 2 years of rent increases, but in a year, right? Because a professional property manager is going to recapture that loss. So there was a rule that if market rent is, say $1,000 and the current tenant is being charged $500, that difference is $500. The rule read, if the disparity is greater than 20%, bring that new rent to within 10% of market rent, right? So in this case, it would be, I think, $900. That's a huge rent increase.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they wanted to do. And that's what the bot is going to do, right? The bot's going to do what you tell it. So the bot sent out the renewal. And while we're having the meeting, the live demo, walking them through, the client kind of had, oh crap, I wish that one wouldn't have been sent out. And that tenant ended up signing it that same day, right? While we were on the call for the $900.
Wow.
So the point is like the bot is going to take the human emotion out of things too.
Right. It's going to do the job. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the leasing agent was looking at that renewal, they'd be like, oh, I don't know if I should send the $300 renewal. Let's adjust it here. Right. We've had other instances too, because, beautiful thing about bots running is you get trackability. If you get a log file, it's a breadcrumb. As the owner, the CEO of the company, you don't need to worry about what's going on for every single task. But if you get a report showing that, okay, 70 lease renewals could have been sent out, 65 of them did, 5 of them still had to be manual. Oh, wait, the bot actually ran 3 of those 5 manual. That's what they care about. we've had clients look at those reports and realize that certain employees haven't kicked off the automations or, stopped some of the scheduling ability because they found out there might not be enough work for them to do. So instead of like going to their boss asking, hey, what's the next task, critical thinking task that, me as a human can do, the boss had no idea until we had like our monthly update with them that one of the automations that he paid for hadn't been being run because, we have that trackability and we can see how often they run. And we put it on his radar, like, hey, is there a reason why you haven't ran your invoice processing reconciliation bot?
And I think that's why it's so important to, talk to your employees ahead of time, let them know, the job security is there. It's what we've seen in the small businesses and the medium-sized businesses and small enterprises is they're increasing personnel. They're not letting people go. So those jobs are just being their tasks and their skill sets going to be used in other areas of the business, right? And because they have experience there, they can find areas of that business that they can explore to make a good fit. And we haven't had one person that I know of be let go because of what we're doing. Enterprise is totally different, but where businesses are trying to grow and scale, you can only grow your business with people. You can't grow with automation. You can improve your processes. You can improve your tasks that you're doing, but you need people to grow. And that's what these businesses are trying to are finding out. Is like when we hire people, they spend their physically and mentally spend their time on things that are going to help our company grow that bots can't do.
Yeah,
that's big.
I mean, I think even a lot of enterprise take the same approach, right? I mean, they're very empathetic and they think about their people as well, right? So those attritions are probably more, as somebody retires, do I really need to replace that FTE based off the automation? I think a lot of those conversations are happening. I'd argue that even helps, as a benefit to, employee benefits, because now there's, less cost. You're not paying payroll taxes, you're not paying the bot PTO, you're not, worried about the bot getting sick. So you might be able to have a bigger pool to, hand out more PTO or potential, incentive bonuses to the employees to come up with that next best idea, or maybe even the next automation that saves the company $1 million, so. We're only scraping the surface of what's coming in the next 3 years. So.
You hit it on the head. We're scraping the surface. We're literally scraping, and we know we're scraping it because less than 2% of all small and medium-sized business owners even know this technology exists. So we're scraping the surface, but at the same time, this software is impacting more businesses than any other software. So it's like it's happening really fast, but not many know about it. But that's going to change, and so it's great to have people like yourself, and people who are dedicated to the cause of helping people understand this. Now, speaking of understanding, what would you say to someone who's kind of on the fence about RPA? And what would you say to someone if you're looking at it, but it's very foreign, they're apprehensive? What would you say to that person that could be possibly on the fence about this technology?
Yeah, so I mean, it is one of the biggest barriers of entry, especially for Simply Automate, right? A lot of businesses think they already have automation software, right? So this is where we're gonna, dispel some myths. Some of the, I don't know if I can even say their names, right? But if you buy an automation software like an AppFolio, QuickBooks, that is, you are correct. You purchase automation software, right? My next question to you is, how do you get the two to talk to each other? How do you fill that gap? That's RPA, right? So when you're taking data from these, whether it be an export, an import, whatever you want to call it, into Excel, CSV, right? You want those data points, whether it be from the PDF, and then you're going to go put it into another cloud-based application or another application on your desktop. The only thing that can do that is what's called RPA, Robotic Process Automation. It fills the gap to make your automation softwares talk to one another, right? That's usually can at least be a starting point to get people to understand. But really the only way you can understand is seeing it in action by one of our use case videos, or having us do what we call a POC, a proof of concept, where that's where we take to us, it's a basic task. We map it out for you and we automate it. These are, we pride ourselves on always doing a task that, gets you instant ROI. It's something that's going to get you the hour, the 2 hours a day back. And then then the light bulb really goes off and the list continues to grow. I don't think we've had a client that we put a POC into live production not come to us with a list of at least 2 or 3 that we just develop in tandem now, right? So it's pretty incredible. I mean, every core business has invoice processing, right? Everybody tells me that, oh, I don't think I need automation software, right? Do you have invoicing? Do you have an accounts payable or an accounts receivable department? Chances are you could benefit from automation in some capacity.
I'm glad you brought that up. You know, it's funny you said that about the software automation, because when we talk to people, it's like, oh, we already have automation, like you said. And trying to have them understand it, like it's not what you think it is. And I used to do this years ago. Like, well, that's not what it is. It's different. It's a different automation. I'm not interested. So I just finally came up with, when they tell me, do you have automation? So, oh yeah, what kind of RPA service do you have? And then what do you mean RPA? At that point, I knew that they're not understanding it. You know, I said, oh, it's totally next level. And that's when I go into when you have your systems talk to each other, and you know, this application does not talk to application. That's what RPA feels like manual gap that you're doing, make it can automate it. And that's when like, okay, it's different. It's yes, totally different. But that's I'm glad you brought that up, because most people that think about RPA, they think it's just another, you know, cloud-based automation or desktop automation software that they could just purchase and put on their desk, and it's automation. So no, there's still manual processes that happen probably before that or after that you have to do to put into another system to save and things like that. So that's where that comes into play. And but I had to learn a lot. I kept wondering why they would not listen. But once I put in the RPA out there, they had no idea what RPA is. That opens up the gate to like, okay, tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, no, that's a really good tactic. I get that a lot too on, you know, obviously cold calling, right, and sales. I'm gonna start using that as well. I always see it in the LinkedIn, right? And so you start doing targeted messages on LinkedIn, and everybody thinks they have a process. And like, I'm not gonna fight with you on the computer because it's just not who I am. But I got to start using that too. Like all of mine are targeted to real estate, or I have a little bit of real estate agents tell me, oh yeah, we already, you know, pay for software like that. And I know exactly what they're talking about. They're talking about the MLS. They type in an MLS number and they get all this data, right? But then I know they still have to pull that data down. They have to put in their customers' information. So there's definitely opportunities. It's just the buy-in, right? And that's why at Simply Automate, the first part we do is education.
Educate so you can automate. David, final words of empowerment, man. Give us your final words of encouragement and empowerment to the people out there. What's your thought? And think about it this way. You are a great business leader. And so there's people out there with businesses, new, they're old, but give them some insight. Give them your best piece of advice that you can give them moving forward.
Yeah, if you're talking to any RPA service providers or just any other automation opportunities, don't buy a bolt-on, right? You truly need in-house developers, in-house consultants to act as your digital worker to do it. And within the next 3 to 5 years, if you don't have an automation specific to RPA as a plan for your business model, it's going to be really hard to scale and compete against the network. Yes, it is only being, you know, targeted at 2% of the small to medium-sized businesses right now, but all it takes is a few big use cases and a few big influencers, as you call it, to pick it up, and it's going to be pretty hard to, you know, catch up.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Wilton, final words?
I just think that, being able to connect with people like David, whether it's on LinkedIn or we'll put all his information is so important, because he can guide you to at least understand it better. And he may be a sales engineer or sales director, but he's not a sales person that's going to be bugging you. He's more about giving the information out. So, just reaching out is so important right now, because like you said, in 3 to 5 years, if you don't have it, it's going to be really hard to compete. It really is. Yeah. And we're finding out the ones that are having it now are seeing an advantage against their competition early, because they kind of strategize on other areas of their company, like the machine learning, the big data, the AIs, those are the things that they're focusing on now, because the real technology that makes it happen. So because we're eliminating that. So we're seeing the early adopters take full advantage of it. So, which is the best place for them to reach you? Is it email, LinkedIn? What would you prefer for people to reach you?
Yeah, all the above. Probably email. LinkedIn is also great. Really easy to filter in on those messages. But I mean, just one final note too, right? The age-old saying, especially if you're an entrepreneur or just a business owner, right? Work on your business, not in your business. I think RPA is truly an avenue to allow you to do that, even while you still are a small mom and pop. You might not have the business to justify what you think RPA costs, and disclaimer, it's not as expensive as you think it is. This gives you the opportunity to scale in the future, right? Like think 10 years ahead. How many people do you need to hire? Well, maybe it's how many good automations do you need? So, I mean, that's the way I take the approach, at least when, I'm taking over another family business too. And the last thing I'm going to do is be there every single day. That's just not the way I'm going to operate. But if I can put in an automation to do 50% of the critical tasks, and I know it's possible, why wouldn't you? And then you hire really good people to be the front end, right? To actually care, want to be in the business. Like, I think that's where this future of just business in general is going to go.
There it is.
Well said. Yes.
McKenzie, thanks for being on the show, my brother.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Reach out, get educated. Educate so you can automate, ladies and gentlemen.